Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. A life dedicated to justice and equality. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister and a towering figure in the American civil rights movement, leading the charge against racial segregation and inequality from the mid-1950s until his assassination in 1968. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance became the cornerstone of the movement, and his leadership was instrumental in the passage of landmark legislation that dismantled legal segregation in the United States. Personal information. Full name: Michael King Jr., later changed to Martin Luther King Jr. Born January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Died April 4, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee, USA. A nationality: American. Education: Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, Morehouse College, 1948. Bachelor of Divinity, Crozer Theological Seminary, 1951. PhD in Systematic Theology, Boston University, 1955. Growth in early life. Born into a middle-class family steeped in the tradition of the Southern Black ministry, Martin Luther King Jr.'s father and maternal grandfather were both Baptist preachers. His father, Martin Luther King Sr., was a respected pastor at Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church and a local civil rights leader himself. Growing up on Sweet Auburn Avenue, a prosperous black business district, King was somewhat shielded from the worst economic hardships of the era, but not from the sting of racial segregation. An academically gifted student, King entered Morehouse College at the age of 15. Initially hesitant about a career in the ministry, he was deeply influenced by Morehouse's president, Dr. Benjamin Mays, who encouraged him to see Christianity as a force for social change. This guidance, combined with an inner urge to serve humanity, led him to be ordained in his father's church before graduating. He continued his theological studies at the integrated Crozer Theological Seminary, where he was elected president of his predominantly white senior class and first became acquainted with the nonviolent philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi. Certificates and achievements. Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership in the civil rights movement garnered numerous accolades and led to historic legislative victories. A Nobel Peace Prize 1964. At 35, he was the youngest person at the time to receive the award for his work to end racial segregation and discrimination through nonviolent resistance. A leadership of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, King was the co-founder and first president of the SCLC in 1957. The organization, which drew on the power of black churches, was created to coordinate and support nonviolent protests across the South. A landmark legislation, his activism was a primary driving force behind the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which outlawed segregation and removed barriers to black enfranchisement. I Have a Dream speech delivered during the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. This speech is one of the most iconic orations in American history, cementing his status as a masterful orator. A Presidential Medal of Freedom, 1977, posthumous, awarded by President Jimmy Carter. A Congressional Gold Medal, 2004, posthumous, awarded to him and his wife Coretta Scott King. Quotes and their meaning. King's speeches and writings are filled with powerful and enduring messages. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. From his letter from a Birmingham jail, this quote articulates his belief in a world of interconnected communities, where the fate of one is tied to the fate of all. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. This reflects the core of his nonviolent philosophy, emphasizing that love and compassion are the only true forces capable of overcoming hatred and oppression. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. This quote conveys his deep-seated faith in the ultimate triumph of justice, despite the slow and often arduous nature of the struggle. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. A line from his most famous speech. It encapsulates his vision for a future free from racial prejudice. Inspirations. King's philosophy was shaped by several key influences. A Mahatma Gandhi. King called Gandhi the guiding light of our technique of nonviolent social change. He was introduced to Gandhi's ideas in seminary and was profoundly moved by the concept of satyagraha, truth force or love force, as a potent weapon for oppressed people. A Christianity. His faith was the bedrock of his activism. He connected the Gandhian method of nonviolence with the Christian doctrine of loving one's enemies, viewing it as a powerful combination for social transformation. A Henry David Thoreau. The American writer's essays on civil disobedience provided an early intellectual framework for nonviolent protest. A Benjamin Mays and Mordecai Johnson. Mays, his mentor at Morehouse, shaped his view of the ministry as a vehicle for social protest. A speech by Howard University President Mordecai Johnson about his trip to India was so profound and electrifying that it prompted King to delve deeply into Gandhi's teachings. Other interests and passions. Beyond desegregation, King's focus broadened to include economic justice. He saw poverty as a root cause of social inequality and believed the fight for civil rights was inseparable from the fight for economic rights. This passion culminated in the Poor People's Campaign in 1968. Organized with the SCLC, it was a multiracial effort to demand economic justice for all poor Americans. The campaign called for an economic bill of rights, which included demands for full employment, a guaranteed annual income, and more low-income housing. The plan was to bring thousands of impoverished people to Washington, D.C., to camp out in a resurrection city on the National Mall until the government acted. Though King was assassinated before the main demonstration, the campaign continued in his honor, bringing national attention to the plight of the poor. Social life. As a pastor and public figure, King's social life was deeply intertwined with his activism. He served as pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery and later as co-pastor with his father at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. The church was not just a place of worship, but the organizational and moral center of the movement, and King used his pulpit to rally communities and advocate for justice. He was known for his charisma and his ability to connect with people from all walks of life, from grassroots organizers to world leaders. Countries visited and vital roles. King's influence was global, and his travels reinforced his commitment to an international struggle for human rights. India, 1959. King, his wife, and a colleague undertook a 5-week tour of India to study Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence firsthand. He met with Prime Minister Nehru and followers of Gandhi, returning more convinced than ever before that the method of nonviolent resistance is the most potent weapon available to oppressed people. He came to India not as a tourist but as a pilgrim. Ghana, 1957. He attended the independence ceremony of Ghana, the first sub-Saharan African nation to break from colonial rule. This trip highlighted the parallels between the fight against colonialism in Africa and the struggle for freedom in the United States. A Europe. King traveled to several European countries, including a notable visit to a divided Berlin, to lecture on civil rights and gather international support. He also spoke out against the apartheid regime in South Africa. Family. King's family was a source of strength and a partner in his activism. A wife, Coretta Scott King, whom he met in Boston while she was a student at the New England Conservatory of Music. She was a formidable activist in her own right, working alongside her husband and, after his assassination, founding the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change to continue their work. Children. They had 4 children, Yolanda, Martin Luther King III, Dexter Scott, and Bernice. They have all continued their parents' legacy of fighting for social justice. Parents and siblings. His father, Martin Luther King Sr., and his mother, Alberta Williams King, instilled in him a sense of self-worth and a commitment to faith and community. He had an older sister, Christine, and a younger brother, Alfred Daniel. Theories and contributions. King's primary contributions were both philosophical and practical, leading to tangible social and legislative change. A nonviolent resistance. Ahimsa. King's greatest contribution was popularizing and adapting Gandhian nonviolence for the American context. He framed it not as passivity, but as active, loving resistance to evil. Campaigns in Birmingham, 1963, and Selma, 1965, demonstrated its power, as televised images of peaceful protesters being met with brutal violence galvanized public opinion and forced federal intervention. The beloved community. This was King's ultimate vision for society, one where justice, peace, and brotherhood prevailed, and all forms of discrimination, poverty, and violence were eradicated. It was a society at peace with itself, reconciled through love and nonviolence. Major campaigns. He led the Montgomery bus boycott, 1955-56, which began after Rosa Parks' arrest and ended with the desegregation of the city's buses. He was a key organizer of the March on Washington 1963 and the Selma to Montgomery marches 1965, which were crucial for the passage of the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act. Influence on psychology. King's life and work have had a lasting impact on several fields of psychology. A social psychology. His leadership, strategies for mass mobilization, and ability to change public opinion serve as powerful case studies in group dynamics, persuasion, and social influence. A conflict resolution. King's methods of nonviolent direct action are studied worldwide as effective strategies for resolving conflict without resorting to violence. His emphasis on understanding the opponent's point of view is a key principle in modern conflict resolution theory. A peace psychology. His concept of the beloved community and his unwavering commitment to peace have influenced the study of how to create peaceful and just societies. Legacy. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee, where he had gone to support striking sanitation workers. His death sparked riots across the country, but also strengthened the resolve to pass further civil rights legislation, such as the Fair Housing Act of 1968. His legacy is immense and enduring. He is the only non-president to be honored with a national holiday in the United States, and a memorial in his honor stands on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The King Center in Atlanta, founded by his widow, continues his work. More than just a leader for African Americans, King's message of nonviolence, justice, and human dignity has inspired movements for freedom and equality around the globe, making him one of the most revered figures in modern history. Conclusion. In conclusion, Martin Luther King Jr. stands as a monumental figure whose life and work fundamentally reshaped the fabric of American society and sent ripples of inspiration across the globe. By masterfully blending the principles of his Christian faith with the nonviolent strategies of Mahatma Gandhi, he forged a powerful and morally unassailable movement for change. His leadership was not confined to eloquent speeches. It was demonstrated through courageous action, strategic planning, and an unwavering commitment to justice in the face of brutal opposition. Dr. King's vision evolved beyond the immediate goal of dismantling segregation to embrace a more profound and inclusive concept of justice. His dream of a beloved community and his later focus on economic inequality through the Poor People's Campaign reveal a sophisticated understanding that true equality requires not just legal rights but economic opportunity for all. He saw the American civil rights struggle as part of a global fight for human dignity, connecting the plight of African Americans with that of oppressed peoples worldwide. Though his life was tragically cut short, his legacy is immortal. Martin Luther King Jr. remains a universal symbol of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of nonviolent resistance. His teachings continue to serve as a vital blueprint for activists and a moral compass for humanity, reminding us that the long arc of the moral universe can be bent toward justice through unwavering courage and love. The end. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.